To this week's episode of The Indie Show. I am so excited. This is kind of a fun conversation. Okay, so let me set the stage up the right way. We've got the amazing Mackey Cox on today. She's an HR expert. She's got a lot going on with her business right now, and we're going to get into it. And Ashley is going to be talking about narratives and the damaging narratives that we tell ourselves as business owners. We've also got my assistant, Caitlin, on the call today because Caitlin has a lot to say, I think, in this, and it's going to be fun to have her on. But she had her own bad day. So if nothing else, maybe we could use today's episode to kind of reverse engineer the narrative that Caitlin told herself today about how today went.
Right. Oh my goodness. This is going to be good.
So Ashley, talk to us a little bit about, I think most of my audience is pretty familiar with because you've been on at least once before. Why did you decide to start talking about narratives recently in these blog series that came out?
Yeah, it's actually pretty, it's pretty, I don't know what the right word is, but serendipitous might work. Because a lot of the things that we've been talking about and hearing about in the online space is self-care. And, you've got the whole phrase that everybody has just fallen in love with, I love myself more than my business. And I think that's such a great campaign and such a great movement, especially with, the increase that we've seen in suicides and celebrities taking their lives. And it brings it more to the forefront because we may not know someone that's been in that situation, or we may not have that close in our own lives, but it kind of brings more awareness to it. And so I've been trying to do a much better job of taking care of myself. So I promise this is going somewhere. No, I'm just not on my soapbox here. But as I was doing some self-care several weeks ago, I'd actually thrown out a blanket in my backyard and was having myself like a little lounge session, was listening to a podcast. I'm really a huge fan of true crime podcasts. Now, sometimes I listen to them a little too much and then I get scared and I have to stop listening for a while because I'm like, oh, these are like real stories. This is not fiction. But this isn't one of those moments. So I'm sitting there and I'm listening to this podcast, and all of a sudden, the podcast is Someone Knows Something, in case you're a true podcast fan. Someone Knows Something. And David Ridgen is the host, and he's telling the story about this 5-year-old Canadian boy who went missing 40 years ago. And he's talking about the investigative process, and he's talking about what theories they came up with and what stories they had. And he said something that just made me stop in my tracks and pause the podcast, and I had to write it down. And that phrase was, it's easier to believe the narrative you want than the truth you're in. And I was like, oh my goodness, I know that there's something here. And so I sat there and I thought about it for a while. Here I am, doing some self-care, but my brain has now had this space to kind of breathe and take in new information. And I started connecting this to the things that we do in business. And I was like, wow, how true is it that once we start telling ourselves a story or a narrative, that really becomes our truth. And then we start looking for things that support that, or that enhance that narrative or that story. So something like, oh, I suck at technology, which I'm totally guilty of saying. This is something I say all the time, and I'm going to stop. But then what we do is we say, oh, you see, I tried to make that Facebook post the other day, and I just couldn't get Facebook to cooperate. See, I suck at technology. Or I was trying to do Instagram stories for the first time in my life ever, and I just couldn't figure it out. And see, I suck at technology. You don't suck at technology because it took you longer than 5 seconds to figure something out. Yep. So that's kind of where this whole narratives story came from. And now I've turned it into a four post blog series, and it's just kind of my thing right now. So
I love that. Is there a, if they just go to sprouthr.co?
Yes, it's sprouthr.co/blog. Okay. It's one of the first things that pops up. And in each of the posts, I link to the other posts. So that way you can kind of go back and forth. But right now I've got 3 out, which is narratives we tell ourselves in business, narratives we tell ourselves as leaders or potential leaders, and narratives we tell our teams. And next week, I'm sharing my own personal narratives that I've told myself and how I'm overcoming those. So that'll be kind of the peek behind the curtains, if you will.
I love it. I'm so excited for that one. And we'll drop a comment to that when you post it. So Danny's got a great comment. This is incredibly damaging behavior for entrepreneurs because we don't have coworkers to refute those stories we tell ourselves.
Yes.
It's so true. And I think it also makes it, because we don't have those coworkers, we can be told certain things from certain people that we then internalize, and it becomes a narrative that we tell ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I remember at the old law firm that I was in, I had certain people at the firm who would tell me things about myself that's really reinforced something about me that I had to build my way back out of.
Yeah.
And so I can totally see that. And it's hard when you don't have a community to kind of build yourself back up, but also, like, not all narratives are bad, right?
Yeah. So I'm specifically focusing on the damaging ones because it's hard to like see them for yourselves.
Yeah.
Until you get some examples and you're like, oh my gosh, I totally say I suck at technology.
Right.
And that's a damaging narrative. But there's things that we're absolutely wonderful at, and we've got a good, healthy mindset about those things. And it's important to get reinforcement there as well, because we don't want to lose our grasp on that and think, well, am I better than I think I am? Am I worse than I think I am? So it's always just so important to get an outside perspective, get some feedback, whether that's a friend, a fellow business person in the online space or in the physical space, whatever your business might be, if it's a mentor or an advisor or a therapist. All these different types of people can give us kind of a reality check on the narratives we're telling ourselves.
I love that. And how is, you've worked for so long when it comes to teams and hiring people. And so you have such a good insight into the power of narratives on a team, and also the power of narratives when maybe you're just a solo and you're bringing your first assistant on. And I talk with lawyers all the time. They're like, man, I just brought on my first assistant, and they're just, what is it with millennials these days? They can't get anything right. And it's like, all right, let's step back, because there's probably something that you're not doing right as a business owner to make that relationship what it should be.
Yeah. So a lot of the times I'll kind of start with the leader and then go to the team. So with a leader, whether you're currently leading a team or you're thinking about leading a team, a lot of the same themes or the same narratives come up over and over and over. So first of all, you're not as alone as you think you are. Everybody questions whether they're going to be a good leader or not. Everybody questions whether they're cut out to be a leader. I definitely don't buy into the phrase that you might have heard, leaders are born, not made, because leadership's just like anything else we do, y'all. Leadership has to be learned. It has to be practiced. You have to have those forehead slapping moments where you're like, oh my God, what did I just do? And how do I fix it? And I have some pretty hairy, scary ones that we won't go into today. But it's a practice ground, and we have to dive in order to learn, and we have to learn these skills and develop these skills. So then when we have these negative narratives or these damaging or toxic narratives about ourselves, that can then flow over to our team. And the narrative might become something that sounds like, oh, I must have hired the worst people in the world. My team sucks. I'm pretty sure that every single person on your team probably doesn't suck, but you probably need some skills that would help you lead them better, so that way they could become better team members. Here's the thing, 99 out of 100 times, problems with our teams are our fault. 99 out of 100 times, I promise you. A great leader can take an average team member and turn them into an A player. And so Caitlin's shaking her head. I feel like you have like a story or maybe an experience that you're like, yes, emphatically, yes.
I've heard, so I've actually had lots of calls with people who are like, oh, I had the worst VA, or like, oh, it's always been really hard. Like VAs just don't know what you want. And I'm like, but a VA can't know what you want if you don't know what you want. So, especially with hiring a team and you're hiring a VA, you can't expect for the VA to know what you want. The VA is there to help support you, and we can't support you if you don't help us support you in that sense.
Yeah. That's such a great example.
I told Caitlin yesterday in kind of a group chat with some other friends that, so Caitlin is a member of my team. And I was like, Caitlin doesn't really make mistakes. And when she does, it's usually actually my mistake. So I can totally get that. If you guys are hopping on if you missed it and you're just hopping on live, welcome to the Indie Show. We're talking with Ashley Cox and my assistant Caitlin Allen about the damaging narratives that we tell ourselves as business owners. So Ashley, we've talked a little bit about kind of how we can form these bad narratives, but what do we do once we identify that there's a bad narrative? And how do we kind of work ourselves out of it?
No, just stop. Yeah, just stop. I mean, now that we know, obviously that's the next step. No, it's really hard. It's hard to break the habit of the negative things we're telling ourselves. I like to think of it as, there's a lot of pressure on women in the U.S. culture to look a certain way, to act a certain way, to, be this size, or to have this hair color, or to have this perfect skin, or whatever it is. And so it's hard when you go around your whole life saying, ugh, I'm too short. Ugh, I'm too fat. Ugh, my hair color's the wrong color. Yeah. For the longest time, I hated my hair and eye color. Y'all, this is my natural stuff here. It's dark hair. It's dark eyes. And I just thought it looked like poop. I was like, ew, I'm so gross. My hair looks like poop. It's disgusting. Why can't I be blonde? Why can't my hair be curly? Why can't I be 6 feet tall? Because I'm 5'2", so I'm real short. They made me sit on a pillow, y'all, to be tall enough for this call, just to put it out there. I'm on a pillow and my chair is all the way up. So my legs will be totally numb by the end of this session. So it's cool. Love it. But it's hard to break from those narratives, but you have to start looking at it saying, is this true? And that's my favorite question to ask about anything. If I'm telling myself something that's negative, or it's not going to be moving me in a positive direction, or maybe it's damaging my mindset, I always say, is this true? And so when I say to myself, oh, I suck at technology, is that really true? Or am I just struggling with this one thing? Yeah. Okay, maybe I can't figure out HTML to backcode the website, whatever. Look, I don't even know the right terms to code the back end of my website. But is that really something that I've practiced? No. Have I gone to school for that? No. Why in the world do I think I can just log into WordPress then and be a magical HTML wizard?
Right.
I shouldn't be, right? Because there's people that have dedicated their lives to learning this technology. But can I operate social media? Can I operate my newsletter, subscription? Can I figure out things on my own? Absolutely. But just like anything, we have to ask, is this the truth? And what have I done to make myself better in this area?
I love that. I mean, for me, it just makes me think that, even if you're a solo business owner, the reality is that having a thriving business takes a village, and everybody has their own unique set of natural strengths. And you're right, we all have to learn that other stuff, but no one comes to the table knowing all of the things that you have to do to have a business. And one of the things that I know that you're doing that I'm so proud of and impressed with is that you're working with somebody who is holding you accountable and is kind of pointing out some of those false narratives in your business. For sure.
Can I give her a plug?
Yeah.
So I'm working with the amazing business strategist, Nevica Vasquez. She is absolutely incredible. She has made me open my eyes when I thought they were already open. And apparently I was looking at things like this. And it's been so helpful for just really uncovering what is working in my business, what's not working, what am I enjoying, what am I not enjoying, why am I doing the things that I'm doing, what stories am I telling myself that's keeping me where I am and not moving forward to those big, goals that I have. And so that's been such an invaluable experience for me, and for being able to say, no, I'm better than this, and now I'm investing in myself in order to move forward and to be better than what I am. So something you mentioned, though, Joey, really kind of brought me, I'm sorry, this piece of hair is just being a complete pain in the apples today. So it needs to just be pinned back. I'm really sorry. I know that's annoying.
You're good.
But one of the things you mentioned really made me think. At one time, so let's think, okay, if you're getting ready to bring on team members, whether that's a VA or that's employees or whatever, and you're thinking, I'm not cut out for this leadership thing. I don't know how I'm going to manage this. I don't think that I'm going to be able to delegate. I can't let go of things. I'm the only person who knows how to do this. Hit me up in the comments if any of that sounds familiar. Right? Caitlin's like, yes, me. I've found myself there before too, girl. Don't you worry. Think about it this way. At one time, you were brand new to being an entrepreneur, to owning and running a small business, and you had no idea what you were doing.
Right.
But you jumped in with both feet and you said, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to learn all these things about subscriber lists and click funnels and lead pages and all these things that now we look at and we're like, oh, I know what that is. But at one time you didn't know what that is, but you still made a decision to take the leap and to say, I'm going to do this. So it's just like that with leadership. It's just like that every time you level up in your business. You don't know what you're getting into, and that's okay. You will figure it out.
I guess I have a question. So what about the narrative of others saying, oh, well, you're such a great VA, when you're trying to niche into something super specific, but other people are putting out the narrative of what you do?
Oh my God. I'm going to have to take a note about this. Self-imposed narratives versus others imposing narratives. Yeah. Because I feel like that could be a whole nother blog post I could write, or I don't know, maybe this will turn into a thing or something. I love that question because other people put their narratives on us all the time because they see a fraction of what's going on. Okay, so just to kind of give y'all a little sneak peek, I'm making some pretty massive changes in my business, and things are not going to look really anything like what they do right now. And Joey actually said to me, wow, I didn't even realize. I thought you loved doing that. Well, sure, because that's what I've been doing, and you have to love what you're doing and put it out there that you love what you're doing, because people won't trust you or buy the thing if you don't love or trust the thing that you're doing either. And so that's a great way to start having boundary conversations with people, to say, you know what, even though it seemed like that, here's what I'm really passionate about. This is what I love to do. Here's where I thrive. Yeah. And this is why. These things are things that I've been doing to build my skill set, to meet new people, to build my client roster or build my audience. These are the things that I had to do to get to where I'm going next. But I'm glad that you appreciate those about me. And it's really just acknowledging someone appreciating something about you and saying thank you. Thank you, Joey, for always believing in me, even though I had a lot of doubt and didn't believe in myself. And that's something that you could say as well, Caitlin, is thank you for believing in me, but I'm really excited to go on this journey next. Oh, y'all, I feel like I am way up on my soapbox.
That was good.
There's a lot of people that are trying to niche and need to hear that.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard.
I think it's interesting though, because I think sometimes people will impose a narrative on you that doesn't exist, and other times people will point out, I think, a narrative that you might be telling yourself that you can kind of jump out of. So, actually, if Danny Fountain is still watching this live, I know that she had a comment earlier. She called me out yesterday for always having titles of my stuff that sound like a senior thesis.
Yes, you do.
And so that's why I titled this video in a very, very casual way.
Yeah, I was like, when I looked at the title of this, I was like, suck it. And then it's like, what is this title? It says, Why Damaging Narratives Suck, featuring HR. And so I read FT as it instead of FT.
That's funny.
I was like,
so yeah.
Oh,
so Danny,
well, that'll get some attention.
But so I had spent 3 years in law school where they drilled in you this way of speaking and titling things. And while I was in law school, I was trying to creatively build around like within those walls and like come up with catchy titles that had that stuff. And I was really, I mean, it was funny. But I was also just kind of really grateful for Danny to tell me that, because I was like, oh, duh, Joey, like I'm not in law school anymore. Like I don't have to title stuff that academic way.
And I love
that could be a narrative that you're telling yourself, is I have to title things this way because this is the way I learned it. And so Danny's helping you pull out of that narrative to say, no, you sure don't. So way to go, Danny.
I think it was even better though, because the second sentence to that was, wait, I can put fun things after the semicolon?
Yeah.
So the fun only happens after the semicolon.
Well, in Joey's mind, it only happened before the semicolon.
So basically,
get serious after that.
Yeah, like my law school thesis was like, text me maybe ? Constitutional analysis of text message received under this case, blah 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 blah. But yeah, it's just I think that we all kind of have these things that we think are walls in some way, and it's helpful, like Danny did, to kind of point out this is something that is a wall for you. Or I was working with another type of business expert earlier this week, and I was telling her some of my plans for what I'm doing, and she was like, Joey, like you're onto something, but just be careful. Like either you are slowly becoming kind of more of like a business consultant and in that space and like lifestyle stuff, or you're a lawyer. And who does that? And
I saw your post about staying in your lane.
Yeah. And make sure that you are staying focused as a business owner, because I think it's really easy to do what kind of starts to gain traction. And like in your case, like you're like, oh, duh, I have this HR background. Let me apply that to this set of businesses, when maybe that's not what you love, but also not the best business decision for where you can go.
Yeah. It's just so interesting because you can just apply this to so many different areas of life and business, and even areas of business within business. You can get as granular as you really want with this. But it's kind of my favorite way to look at it. If maybe you're feeling like, I don't really know what these people are talking about or where they're going. Let me give you a great example I shared with Joey and Caitlin just before we hopped on the call. And it's all about the bad day, right? We've all had a bad day in our lives. Caitlin maybe had one of the really bad days today, trying to get around the country. So here's the thing. And we'll tell you about Caitlin in a minute. I don't think you guys have told anybody yet, right?
Not
okay.
Yet.
We'll have to share, and we'll have to see if we can help Caitlin reframe her bad day. But it's just like if you wake up in the morning and you're real excited and you're going to go and you're going to work at Starbucks today. And as you're rushing around the house and you're getting ready, you stub your toe on the edge of the bed. And we all know that you scream some sort of expletive and you're like, ugh, is this how this day is going to start?
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, whatever. Okay, fine. I'm just going to get my keys and I'm going to get my handbag and I'm going to go to Starbucks. And so on the way to Starbucks, you hit every red light in town. Is that not frustrating? Don't we all hate that? And it's like, I knew it. I knew this is just going to be a horrible day. I just knew it. Here I've hit every red light in town. Then you get to Starbucks and you're like, okay, I'm going to get the venti, because we all know at this point you need the venti. I'm going to get the venti caramel macchiato with almond milk. It is going to be so good. But guess what? Starbucks is out of almond milk. And you're lactose intolerant. So now you got to use coconut milk, which changes the whole taste of your beverage. And it is literally now the worst day ever in the whole world. The whole world. Okay. So because we stubbed our toe this morning, we started telling ourselves immediately the narrative that this was going to be a bad day.
Yeah.
And then we found things along the way that continued to make this a bad day. Was your day really bad? I mean, like, did you get into a car accident? No, probably because you were sitting at 67 red lights this morning. Did you die from somebody putting cow's milk in your, caramel macchiato this morning because they were like, we're out of almond milk. I'm just going to sub it with this. No, at least you knew. So the thing is, we continue to look for these bad things that are happening throughout the day to continue to support and feed that narrative. And this is exactly what we do in our businesses when we don't believe, or we don't have the confidence, or we don't have the strong mindset in place that we need to combat those narratives. Again, is this true? Am I really having a bad day? My husband and my kids are happy. Everybody got off to school and work on time. I wasn't in a car crash on the interstate. There are worse things than Starbucks running out of almond milk. There's a lot of things that could have gone wrong that really didn't. So, Caitlin, my dear, tell us about your bad day.
And keep it quick, because we've only got a couple, 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, I'll say it fast. So I don't know if many people know, but I was supposed to go to Chicago to be with Joey for the next few days. Except for I drove in 10 miles. It took me an hour and a half to get to the airport. Finally got to the airport, parked my car, took the shuttle, got into the line, stood in line for a really long time. My ticket wouldn't come through, so I went to the customer service desk. They canceled my flight. And just mechanical errors an hour before my flight was supposed to take off. They wouldn't fix it. They said that my flight would be tomorrow, and Joey and I have meetings all day, so that's kind of sucky. So then I had to take a shuttle back. I had to find my way around the airport to take a shuttle back to my car to drive back home, but now I'm here.
Okay, so that was a pretty inconvenient day, if you will. Yeah. So maybe reframing bad as inconvenient might help. But what are the good things that have happened today?
I got to be on this call with you guys.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think it's all kind of just I forget the phrase that I think I told Kate, it is what it is. And she was like, don't say that saying to me ever again. But I think especially as a business owner, whenever a problem happens, I get it. You have to spend some time in that, oh, shoot, a problem just happened mode. Yeah, but then as quickly as possible, you have to be what is the way to get out of this and then get it behind you?
Yeah.
Because you're so right, Ashley. If you don't stop after you stub that toe and recheck yourself, then it snowballs into this is the worst day ever.
Yeah. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. I mean, it had to be said.
It did. It did.
Oh my gosh.
So,
but seriously, I think it's such an important conversation to be having. Yeah. I think that we've got to stop telling ourselves such negative things, or we're not going to grow in the ways that we want to grow. Yeah. And it's just think about Blockbuster. They kept telling themselves the story that, this Netflix thing's never going to take off and we don't need to change and people love our format. And guess what happened to them? Yeah. We don't want that to happen to us. So,
right.
Yeah.
So narratives can go both ways. And I think that it's really important for, as a business owner, to have certain people that you can trust who will tell you what they think is the truth about their perspective of where you're at. And it's awesome that Ashley has that assistance. Caitlin and I on the indie law side of things are having that support as well. And it sounds like, Ashley, you are going into a space where you're going to be able to provide that type of support for business owners in the not too distant future, which is super exciting. Yeah,
I'm getting really pumped up. I can't wait to spill all the beans.
That's awesome. Well, when you do have beans to spill, we will collect them and drop them in the comments here in this video so that anybody who watches the replay knows where they can find you.
Love it.
Let's see. Danny, thanks for dropping a link to a Twitter account, The Lone Blockbuster.
I love that account. It's hilarious.
So
Have
funny.
you seen it?
I haven't.
Oh,
I can assume what it is, but I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
I'll have to check it out.
You'll spend an inordinate amount of time.
I don't tweet that often, but I'll check it out.
I don't either. I have a Twitter just to creep on other people. That's so terrible.
You said it.
I don't use it. I'm
okay.
let me just
I kind of do it too. It's all good. All right. So we'll wrap up here for the week, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in live or on the replay. If you want to continue chatting with Ashley, we've got her info in the comments. And again, we'll keep you guys posted on what she's got cooking for us after she kind of pops her business head out of the ground in a little while.
Like an ostrich.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I think that's it. Let us know if you guys have any questions or if you want to talk more about this idea of narratives. And that's it for the week. See you guys.